out for you and plenty of information. A little bit about me. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's in English and I have a master's in communication. And after I graduated, I spent a lot of time in television, produced television, and then I started writing for television. And I wrote soap operas. I wrote Another World, and I wrote for Guiding Light, and I wrote for All My Children. So I've written marriages, and I've written breakups, and I've written amnesia, and all kinds of stuff. So if you can think of a story, you know, we've probably written it. It's probably been on a soap opera. So let's think about the word story for a moment, because that's really important, and what makes a good story. So I want you to think about, you have a favorite TV show, or if you have a favorite book, and whatever it is, it has to hold your interest, right? Because if it's boring, you're going to turn the channel, or you can put that book down, and you're never going to come back to it. So a good story makes you turn that page. It draws you in, right? It has characters that you care about. You want to find out what happens to them. I mean, even if it's the Kardashians, right? You want to find out what happens to them. So a good story draws you along, starts at the beginning, goes to the middle, and it goes to the end in an interesting way. So that's what a good story is. And a college application essay is a good story. The difference is, it's about you. It's about creating a story about you, something that you want to tell the schools about your life, your interests, your goals, something that has meaning to you. So we're going to talk a little bit about stories in a minute. And first I want to talk about the common application. If you don't know what the common application is, the common application is an application that you fill out just once, and then it can be sent to as many schools to participate in the common application as you want. And right now there are, I think, about 490 schools who accept the common application. Some don't, but probably most of the ones that you're applying to do. So today what we're doing is we're focusing on the essay for the common application. And behind me are the prompts for this year. I'm not going to talk about them yet, we'll get to that, but that's what we're going to discuss. Although, when I talk about writing college application essays, everything that you learned today can apply to any college application essay that you write. So, if you have been through the college process before, I've had a student that's been through before, the college application essay has changed this year. They've changed in a couple of significant ways. Before, you could write up to 500 words. Now you can write up to 650 words. Before, even if you wrote more than 500 words, you could upload it. This time, you're not going to be able to upload more than 650 words. There are all new prompts that they say they're going to be changing every year, whereas before you had the option to write about a topic of your choice. That's gone. And the common application had 2 essays before. One was a short answer about your extracurricular activity. That now is off the table, although member schools, if they want to add it in, they can. But right now I'm saying that the common application has 1 essay, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So let's talk about what colleges look for in a college application essay. So they look for 3 major things. They're going to look for how well you write. They're going to look for how well you organize your thoughts. And they're going to look for what's unique about you, what's special about you, what makes you, you in a way. And why is that important? Well, because colleges, when they have an applicant pool and they accept people, they are really creating a community, a campus community. And they're looking to populate that community with all different kinds of people, right? Athletes and creative people and people who love theater and people who love engineering, putting together a whole batch of people that will come together and be really interesting and make their campus community vibrant. So this college essay really is your representative to them. And it is going to let them get to know you and get to figure out how you would be a great part of their community, really why you would be a good fit for them. So that's one of the things that this important things that this essay does. No one else should be able to write your essay. That's how special this essay should be for you. I'm going to add a fourth thing, actually. I'm going to say that the colleges are also looking for you to add in this essay a learning or growth experience. Not just what you did, but how it changed you, or how you grew from it, or what was important and meaningful about it that you want to write about it. So before we get to those topics and about what you should be writing, let's talk about what you shouldn't be writing about, because that's important to know too. So I have eight things that you should scratch off your list. Okay? And the first one is your drug use. Right? I hear louder laughter from certain sections. But you always want your college application essay to say positive things about you and good things about you, okay? So you really don't want to be telling them about the time the cops almost caught you with a six-pack of beer in the park, or what you were doing in the back seat of the car, or anything that really is not going to say good things about you. So no drug use. Your sex life, right? You want to be careful, again, about too much information. What you want to consider is that your essay has a reader, right? There's going to be people reading this essay. Who's reading your essay? It could be anybody, right? This is Matthew Dempsey. He could be reading your essay. It could, if you look around you, it could be someone who's older, it could be someone who just graduated, it could be someone with different life experiences. And you don't know, so you don't ever want to make them uncomfortable. Another thing to scratch off your list is anything that sounds like bragging, okay? How you worked so hard to get straight A's, how you single-handedly won the game. If there are ways of talking about these things, you want to do it with a little bit of humility rather than just making it sound like bragging. That's going to turn people off. So then there is the topic of controversial subjects. Be careful when you're thinking about dealing with issues like abortion, capital punishment, gun control. Now, gun control is really in the news right now, and we are in an area where, in fact, there are some students that may want to talk about gun control or incidents that have affected them. But when you do it, you want to make sure that you approach these subjects in a mature way with perspective. Okay? Not just like an opinion piece with just one opinion. If you're going to write on a controversial subject, again, understand that you're not sure who's reading it, and be really thoughtful about how you're going to approach it. Okay, so the travel log, the type of a diary. If you've been on vacation and you went on vacation for 2 weeks and you want to talk about your vacation, what you don't want to do is say, day 1 I did this, and day 2 I did this, and day 3 I did this, and day 4 Matthew will be asleep by the time he finishes your essay. So you want to find a different way to approach it. You want to find maybe one thing that happened during that time that was meaningful to you. And another thing is lists. A list of accomplishments. I did this, and then I did that, and then I was elected to so-and-so, and by the end I've had a great life. So that, again, does not make a really meaningful, deep college essay. It doesn't tell the college much about you. So those are things that you should consider not doing. So what should you be doing? What should you be writing about? So you want to be writing about you. You want to be writing about your goals. You want to be writing about your dreams. You want to be writing about what shaped you and how you've come through it to be the person that you are today. You want to figure out what it is that you want the schools to know about you. We all have a lot of things, but you can't do everything in 650 words. So you kind of have to figure out what's important and what it is that you want to share. So a lot of people say, well, I don't know. How do I figure that out? I mean, we do not spend a lot of time reflecting on our lives and thinking about our lives. We're really too busy being part of our lives. And so this is kind of a time where we have to step back and be that fly on the wall in our own life and kind of look inside and say, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I have done? Sometimes people think of your life as like a roll of movie film, and you're watching your life as a movie, and if you're thinking about the times in your life that stand out in that movie, what would those times be? So there are different ways to think about that. Another way that I work with my students is discussing, figuring out what their values are. What is important to them in terms of the type of people you are. So now we come to this handout, the Getting to Know Yourself handout. And if you look at this handout, what this has is a lot of lists of virtues or values. And I want everybody to look at it, parents too, definitely students. And I want you to look at this list and read it. And I want you to take your time, and then I want you to circle 5 values that you believe are important to you in your own life. And I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Take a look at the list and think about it. So you can keep doing this if you haven't finished, but once you're finished with that, what I ask my students to do is, now that you have a list of these 5 things, I want you to think of an illustration from your own life, how your own life reflects this value. So for instance, if you've circled thoughtfulness, maybe you say, I'm thoughtful every week I go to senior citizen home to spend time with somebody who has, no friends. Or you circle perseverance because there has been something that you have come through and you've struggled through, but you have gotten to the end of it, and so you persevere. Or you've circled commitment. Well, how are you committed? And how do you exhibit that in your life? And what you find is, if you take the time to write down an example for every one of these values, the 5 values, you will begin to understand in your life what is valuable to you. You may even end up with an example of something that will actually answer a prompt or a supplemental essay. But at least it's the beginning of you figuring out what it is that's valuable to you, and maybe something that you want to share. So I find this very, very valuable, and that's always a good way to start when we're talking about, well, what do I talk about, and how do we know about me? So that's that handout. Okay. Basically, what you've done here is you've started to do research about yourself, because that's what the colleges are asking you to do. They're asking you to figure out who you are. It's like doing a term paper on a subject, right? Except you're the subject. So you have to do all the research. So this is how you start. So I want to read you an example, actually, of how this works, because I had a student come to me, and he had already written his essay, but he knew it wasn't any good, and this was how it started. These were his first 3 sentences. The universal language of the world is music. Any genre can be related to an individual person. The lyrics can delve into a much deeper meaning than what they actually are, and can be interpreted in so many different ways. So this felt really detached. I mean, I didn't get I was like, it sounds like a term paper and you're describing music, but who are you? So we went through this, and he circled the values, and he came up with examples. And he decided what his values are and what mattered to him, and he changed topics. And I'm just going to read you his first sentences. Go mow the lawn. I don't want to, I'm tired. Fine. Moments later, my father stormed out of the house to mow the lawn and had a heart attack. That's a much different essay. And that's a personal essay. And he figured out inside what he wanted to tell the college. And so that came from this. So this can be very valuable. So what you're doing is you're thinking of yourself like a project, right? And hopefully you'll begin to come up with the foundation of an essay that's unique to you. So we're almost going to get to the prompts, but I want to talk about the elements of a good essay. Okay? So we started with the word story. Right? You want to think of your essay as a story. Right? My father stormed out of the house and had a heart attack. That's the beginning of the story. During the story, something happens to you. Right? And you want to show through your story that you learn something about yourself. I mentioned that earlier. That's really, really key. It's not just the experience you're writing about, because across the board, you may have similar experiences to another student, but it's what happened to you and how that shaped you that's going to be unique to you. So essays will have two parts, right? The topic and your learning or your growth experience. Your essay needs to say good things about you. We talked about that. We talked about the word unique. Only you should be able to write your essay. If you write your essay and then you look at it and you ask yourself, can 100 other students write the same essay? Then it isn't unique enough to you yet. You have to figure out what details you're missing, what part of you haven't put in it, right? An essay should have really good detail. This is also part of making your essay unique, right? Detail sets the scene for the reader. So you know when you write, you know that you're writing who, what, when, where, and why. But there's other kind of details that you should think about. Sensory detail is important. What did it taste like? Or what did it smell like? Or how did it feel? Or how did it look? Right? That's going to draw your reader into the story. So here's a couple of sentences from an essay, right? Musty air filled my lungs as beetles crept across my sleeping bag. Struggling to find sleep in the dungeon, the sticky residue of spider webs still clung to my hair. So that's very descriptive, and that has good detail. He figured out, he closed his eyes and he thought about how it was and how it felt to him, and how it sensed, so we've got these sticky spider webs in his hair. And we all feel that when we read it, so that's good detail. So good essays are honest. Don't write what you think colleges want to hear. Don't make up stuff, because not only, I promise you, what you have to say is better than what you're going to make up. In fact, I had a young man named Yu Ren, who's a Harvard student, and he wrote a blog post for me about what he learned from writing college essays. In fact, the blog post was about how learning to write college essays gave him the ability to write the essays that got him an important internship and probably a job. But one of the things that he wrote was about honesty. And I love what he wrote. He said, honestly, lying is hard. No matter how much detail you slap on a lie, there are crucial, significant elements that are still missing. Save yourself the trouble trying to write about stuff that you have never done, and just pour your heart and mind into those events that you have faced. So I think that's really great. A good essay is going to sound like you. Okay? It's not going to sound like a 40-year-old. It's not going to sound like a professor. It's going to sound like you. We all have our own voices. We all talk in a certain way. We all have a way we sound. The colleges know when they're reading an essay by someone who is 40. You're different. You're you. There's a handout you may have picked up. It's called Writing with Your Authentic Voice, and so that's something that you should read. It should, when you write an essay, it should almost read like you speak, right? And it should be very close to how you write. So also, good essays don't tell, they show. I don't know if you've learned this already in your English classes, but what do I mean by that? A lot of times when students write something, especially if you're writing a story form, they'll tell you what happened. They'll very explicitly, this happened, and then that happened, and the other thing happened, and that can be pretty boring. So I'm going to give you an example of a young man who was applying to medical school, and this is how he started his draft. He tells us, When I was in high school, I had the privilege to take an honors emergency medical technician course as part of my regular coursework. I had recently joined the fire department in town as part of my community volunteer service. I was quickly thrust into the world of emergency medicine. One of my first motor vehicle accidents involved a longtime friend, and one of my first calls, working a cardiac arrest, was a close friend's mother. So it tells us something. It tells us something. So it's also pretty boring. There's no action, nothing is happening. It's not really a story that draws you in. So he reworked it, all right? He started with the action that was happening. And here's how he showed us. Right? 3:24 a.m., drowsy, trying to wake up. Reading ambulance for an unresponsive female. Adrenaline kicking in. EMS pants on. CPR in progress. Damn. And then he continues. So much more interesting. He created his introduction to start with action was happening, and he showed us what was happening. He didn't tell us what was happening. So now, we're going to look at the prompts. So these prompts are all new this year. And I'm going to read you first the instructions that aren't here, so that you know what they say. The essay demonstrates your ability to write clearly and concisely on a selected topic, helps you distinguish yourself in your own voice. What do you want the readers of your application to know about you, apart from courses, grades, and test scores? Choose the best option. Write an essay of no more than 650 words, using the prompt to inspire and structure your response. So we're going to go through these prompts, and I'm going to give you some examples. I haven't had students that have exactly written these examples, but they have written on topics of their choice, and a lot of them do fit in here. So the first one is, some students have a background or story that is so central to their identity that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So this topic gives you a lot of leeway. It's almost like a topic of your choice, right? But it's so central to your identity that your application would be incomplete without it. One thing that you don't want to forget if you choose this topic is to tell them what your learning experience was, what your growth experience was. And I'll give you an example. I had a student who was a very accomplished ballerina. In fact, she studied with the Bolshoi Ballet during the summer. She wrote how she loved to dance. She was so accomplished that everyone thought that she would turn professional. But she decided she didn't want to. And that was the end of her essay. It was about her identity, something that was so important to her, but she knew something was missing and she couldn't figure it out. So we talked about it. We talked about what was important to her. And you know what it turned out? It turned out that the reason that she didn't want to be a professional dancer was because she wanted to be a nutritionist for dancers. That when she was at these summer intensives, her experience with other girls who had had eating disorders impacted her in such a way that changed the idea of her whole future. And that was her learning experience, and that was the rest of her essay. So this is how she began her essay. 12 p.m., 70 Lincoln Center, Rose Building, 3rd floor. I'm here for the summer intensive with the Bolshoi Ballet Academy of Moscow, one of the oldest and most established schools for classical ballet training. It's lunchtime in Manhattan as ballerinas flood the cafe. My body aches from the morning technique and point class, but I find enough energy to retrieve my daily yogurt and fruit. Around me, dancers pick up granola bars, examine them like they are foreign objects, and place them back on the shelves. The voices echo in my head. My partner won't be able to lift me if I eat that. How many calories are in this sandwich? Something mumbled in Russian. So knowing that she was going to talk about how this changed her, changed the whole dynamics of the essay. So you get the feeling right from the start, which she's going to talk about. Notice also that she used the word I a lot. And the word I is something that when you're in school, you're taught not to do, right? You're supposed to be objective. But when you're writing this essay, it's about you. So you want to use the word I. Now, the second prompt, recount an incident or time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you? What lessons did you learn? Right? As we're going through, maybe things are muddling, murmuring around in your head, and maybe you're getting an idea that something is speaking to you. So I have an example for this. I'm not going to tell you what this is about. I'm just going to read you the first paragraph. The snow was almost up to my knees and still coming down. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, freezing and windy. I didn't know how I was going to get through this. Quite honestly, I was tempted to quit before I started, but I had 6 people depending on me. It would be up to me if they'd be able to get to work or buy groceries for dinner. I turned the ignition switch of my 600 IB ATV, put it in reverse, and ended up a foot away from the garage, stuck. So I didn't tell you what it was about because I don't need to tell you what it was about. I think this was a great introduction. It tells you where he is, what's going on, and he tells you that something bad has just happened because he has a lot of people depending on him. This student got into a situation where the weather report was wrong, and his ATV got stuck, and it's all about how he had to get out of that. But the important thing that I'm saying is that he didn't focus on the failure. He focused how he got out of that and how it shaped him and what he learned from it. And I'm going to read you the conclusion. This is how he ends it. 3 years later, I'm sitting in my own pickup. At 17, I saved up enough money from my business to purchase a truck with a plow. On my own, I learned what it takes to run my own business and solve the unexpected problems that seem to only occur at the worst possible moments. I enjoy learning from my experiences, and I look forward to learning more about managing a business so that one day I can run a business of my own. Okay, number 3. Reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act? Would you make the same decision again? This really goes to something that may, be really inside you, something that challenged you. I had a student whose father insisted that she be confirmed when she wasn't ready to commit to a specific faith. And this was a really hard and tough thing that she had to grapple with. This was more of an idea than experience. It ended up being an experience, but it was really from in here. She wrote, "Nobody ever wants to be told what to do, especially when you're 16 and it's your father telling you what to do. So when my father announced that we were switching from the Episcopal to the Presbyterian Church and that I would begin the confirmation process in 2 weeks, I wasn't pleased." So I've chosen to read you a lot of introductions today because they're all interesting. They're all interesting in their own way. Everybody has a different story. Everybody's found an interesting way to tell it. They all make you want to keep reading, and you can do that too with your own story. Right? This should be inspiring to you. Okay, so number 4, describe a place or environment where you're perfectly content. What do you do or experience there? Why is it meaningful to you? This can be any place. Right? It could be your room, it could be the beach, it could be any place. It could be someplace in your imagination. It could be any place. Connecticut College had an essay this past year, and it wanted to know about your favorite place. And I had a student write this. In the basement of the art building at my school, 3 doors down, there is a tiny practice room with just enough room for a piano, a stool, and a chair. This tiny room can fit an enormous amount of people and even more memories. It has room to find people, a room to work, and a room to hang out in. It can be locked when we need it to be. It is one of the few private places in school where I can spend time with my friends. It's a small place, a simple place, but it is my place. It is a place devoid of worry and stress where I can relax after a long day. Everyone should have a place like that. This is really nice. This really speaks to you in this student's voice. It's simple, doesn't go overboard with a lot of detail. He was not like that. But he used his own voice, and he really looked inside for meaning to write this. This would make a good introduction for a 650-word essay. Okay, the last one. Discuss an accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked the transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. So this could be a lot of things. This past year I had a Filipino student who hadn't been at all connected to his culture until he joined the Filipino American Association. And he learned language and he learned dance. And it turned out that not only does he teach dance now, he teaches the younger Filipino children about their culture, and he's happy to spread that tradition to anybody who wants to know about it. And that has really reconnected him. And so that would make a good essay for this. So we've gone over the prompts, right? I've given you examples of how students have answered these kinds of questions. And as I've been talking, maybe some examples have come to you for your own experiences, and maybe you've already started to figure out what it is you want to say. If you can't, and haven't done that yet, one of the ways to kind of figure that out is to brainstorm. Come up with lots and lots of topics without judging yourself, right? One of the worst things we can do is sit down at a desk and look at a piece of paper or a keyboard and say, now I am going to write. Because guess what? Now I'm going to write is the time that no words will come out. So if this is not good for you, you can always think when you are not sitting in front of the keyboard, right? You're walking the dog or you're taking a shower. Give your brain that time to kind of be creative and to think about it. Then brainstorm. Come up with a lot of topics. Don't be judgmental about it. And write them down. And go back and look at them. And the topics that speak to you, they're going to be the ones that you think, well, maybe I should write about this. And then kind of just, I call it free writing. Have you ever done free writing? Give yourself 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just write. Keep writing about anything. It doesn't matter. Run on sentences. Who cares about grammar? And keep writing. And then look and see what you've written. And there might be some real gems in there. Some ideas that you have, right? Some real fluid sentences. These will be things that then you can take, and then when you sit down to organize and structure, then you can put them into a place that becomes your college application essay. We've talked about great introductions. I've talked a little bit about good detail. Right? When you write, you want to choose good adjectives and you want to choose good adverbs. And be careful, because just because it's a bigger word and you can find it in the source, doesn't mean it belongs in your college essay. So I talked to a student and I looked at his college essay and I said, well, this is an interesting word. What does that mean? I don't know. Because he got it out of the source and he had no idea. So again, be careful about the words you choose. And not everything is amazing. Not everything is really amazing. Really is a big word. Okay, really ended up in everybody's essay 4 or 5 times this past year. So these are things to look for and things to be careful about. All right? Write a good conclusion. And finally, proofread. This is so, so important, right? Give it to someone who's good with spelling and grammar and punctuation, someone that you trust, someone that knows you. It can be a teacher, it can be a parent. Have them take a look at it. Make sure that everything looks good, everything is proofed, everything is grammatically correct. Don't rely on spell check, because spell check will miss words that, homonyms or other words like that. Give yourself more time than you need. Twice as much time as you think you need. If you can start in the summer, it's a great time to start. Because as busy as the summer is, when you get to senior year, it's going to be even busier. And sleep on it when you hand it in. I think the Common Application has some kind of, they say that they're getting, I can't even tell you per second how many applications they get at like 11:59 p.m. before midnight of the day that it's due. So try and give yourself enough time to sleep on it and to get it in. Collect all your essay prompts. Collect them in advance so that you know all the different ones you're writing, because you may be able to use the same idea for different essays. It's going to save you time. And finally, I want to end by saying that everybody here has a story to tell. You may not think that you have anything big to say, but you don't have to have something big to say. You just have to have something that's meaningful to you, and to find a way to say it that's interesting, and to talk about what you've learned from it. Right? Whether it's someplace you've been or someplace you felt, it's in you to write about it. Okay, so do that. I have a blog. It's called applyingtocollege.org. It has all kinds of essay advice. You can go there, certainly. And I have a newsletter if you want to sign up for that. And we're here for questions afterwards, and I'm always around. So anything I can do to help you, just let me know. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matthew Dempsey.
Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Rarely do I get clapped onto the stage, but hey, I'll take it. Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. Last time I was here in this room, I think it was like 70 degrees out. It was beautiful. I come here tonight, it's freezing. We had a blizzard, so trying to recalibrate here, but I think I can do it. So I'm here to talk to you guys a little about the college essay from my perspective, right? From the admission perspective, very specifically. I'm the one that you send that essay to. And so I need to kind of tell you what I'm thinking when that essay comes to me, but also, what I'm looking for. You just got some great information from Sharon here, just, about that essay in general. But I think I have a few more things that I can add on to that from the experiences I've had reading the essays. Just a little bit about me before we get started. Right, Matthew Dempsey is my name. Right, I'm Assistant Director of Admission at Fairfield University, about 20 minutes up the road. I'm also Director of Transfer Admission in the admission office. I grew up in Wilton, Connecticut, so not far from here. Right, I went to Wilton High School. Okay, so there's that. I went to Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania, and now this is my 6th year working at Fairfield. All right, so done a lot of things, right? But I am primarily a product of the liberal arts. Okay, so my perspective, just so you are aware, is going to be from that of a small liberal arts school. So if you're applying to schools that are much larger, if you're applying to a state institution, certain things like that, it's going to be helpful for you to ask people like me at those schools what they require in an essay or what they're looking for, because Fairfield gets about 9,000 or so applications each year, okay? If you're going to apply to UConn, do you think they get 9,000 a year? I'm pretty sure they have more than 9,000 students in the freshman class, right? So you need to know how they evaluate your essay, okay? Those are important things to ask those questions. So just so you know, the advice I give will be very helpful from a liberal arts perspective in a small to medium-sized school, okay? And I think generally, but just keep that in mind, that it's very helpful to ask people like me those kinds of questions, okay? So these prompts are brand new, okay? I just got them 2 weeks ago. So I didn't even know what these were 2 weeks ago. So this is no secret we've been hiding, okay? Sharon and I, we just got them and we decided to put them up here for you guys. They weren't supposed to come out for another few weeks. So this is good that you're here. You're getting these a little bit in advance. I don't know if all the high schools have gotten them, and the Common App itself doesn't come out until August 1st. So you can't even touch this stuff until August 1st. So you're getting some good information if you're writing these down. It's on the Common App's Facebook page, by the way. If you haven't liked their page and you're a high school junior right now, I definitely recommend, or if you're a parent and you have your own page, right, like the Common App page. They have good information, good tips, you can actually ask questions of them, and they will respond, which is really great. So definitely do that. But I got some information. We got this stuff on their Facebook page as well. Okay. So the first thing I want to just make sure you know, right? When I say, answer the question. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? Answer the prompt, okay? The first prompt says, some students have a background or story that is so central to their identity that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. So that gives you a wide spectrum, right? We just heard of some ideas, things where you have a little bit of an open forum. Okay, right? We're going to touch on that in a second. But, right, here's something that is very important, okay? The second one, right? Recount an event or a time when you experienced failure, period. How did it affect you? Period. What lessons did you learn? Question mark. Okay? There are 3 things that you need to answer in that essay or in that prompt, or it's not an effective prompt, right? Now I'm not going in there and grading you prompt, one by one. But the question is asking you 3 things, okay? So it's not you experience failure and now I'm a good person, right? Or, here's what happened to me, I failed, and now I know that I need to, let's say I failed the test, now I know I need to study for that test, right? That's not the prompt, okay? So really answer the question, it's very important. Okay? And Sharon said this before, the essay is about, I'm talking to students here, the essay is about you, right? Right? The essay is about you, okay? And the essays are an important piece to the application process, okay? And we say that because it's the student's opportunity to really put their personality on paper, right? Give us a chance to get to know you outside of what we said before, the grades, right? The SATs, or the resume. The resume gives us a little bit, but it's your voice. If I haven't interviewed you, if I haven't met you before, if I've only met you in passing, right? Maybe answered a few questions for you, right? This essay is your chance to tell me that unique piece to the puzzle. Okay. The essays take time to write. Right? Sharon just highlighted this. Okay. I've been talking to families, a lot of years here. All right, and I can't tell you how many times I hear people who talk about writing their essay, in August. Like the Common App comes out and then they start. Okay, this is a time for you to develop an essay. Now, I'm not asking you to start the essay now. I'm not asking you to start it in May, right? But June is a good time to kind of get things rolling, right? Let high school end, right? Kind of let the year end, finals are done, hey, summer's about to start, and I'm about to go on vacation, and now this guy's going to tell me I have to start working on my college application. Like, how dare you, okay? But this is important, okay? Right? Take some time to develop that topic. Let it breathe, okay? Right? The more you let it breathe, the better it will become. The more time you spend on it and let it kind of grow and become something, right, the better essay it's going to be in August, right? And they say this when you write something for the first time, and then you write it again, you write it again, you write it again. By the 5th time, it's better than it was the first time, correct? Right? Same thing with a topic, right? I like to tell people, have a list of topics, right? 4 or 5 different things that you're going to, potential things, right? Now, everybody has a smartphone or an iPhone, right? I'm out for a run, I'm at the gym, I'm not in class. I don't use my phone in class. Okay, don't use it in class. But I have something here called notes, okay? And I can add a note, and I can title that college essay topics. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, boom, write it down. Write it down. Put another one. Right? On my phone, is right in front of me. I usually always have this in my hand, right? I don't have any class, but it's in my hands, right? And it's a good place to kind of keep track of your thoughts, right? And these are just those things that pop in your head. And usually this happens, and they say the best ideas, are like the middle of the night, like you're about to fall asleep and you're like, oh, I should remember that tomorrow. But then you don't write it down and then you don't remember it, right? Do that. These things help, okay? But it takes time. And that's why if you give yourself time, I say June is a good time to kind of get things rolling, get the ball rolling, move things forward. And as you get to August, right, you're going to start having rough drafts and rough drafts and rough drafts. And by the end of July, you're going to have, probably something that resembles an essay, right? Not, like a rough draft, right? But by the end of August, hopefully you have a rough draft. And then September rolls around and school's about to start, and we go back to English class, and we have our guidance counselors and people to help us out. And guess what? We have a rough draft of an essay to bring to them, right? And of course, the first deadline for applications is usually, what, not until November 1st, right? That's Fairfield's deadline, right, for early action. You still, in September 1, have 2 full months with a rough draft to make it a final draft, right? So you could submit it anytime before November 1st, but think about how much farther ahead in the game you are with that essay, right? Because you're sending in you're not writing your recommendation letters for yourself. You're not writing up your transcript, right? If you've written up the Common App, in the month of August, then that's done. So the only thing that you're really spending time on outside of the things you're asking for is the essay or additional prompts from other schools or things like that. So this is why taking the time can be beneficial to you. Okay? Now, I don't know, is everybody from Darien High School, or people go to other high schools as well? Some other high schools? Just say, so, what name, yell them out. You're from Fairfield County. Which school? AIT? Brunswick?
RV School.
RV School? Some other schools? Okay, right? All right, so the reason why I say this is, does your high school have like an assignment in English class this year about a college essay? Does anybody know? Has anybody looked at their syllabus to find out? Some schools do, some schools don't. I put that out there because some schools, it is like a junior year assignment to write a college essay, right? And the only thing I would say about that is that's wonderful. That's not your college essay. So please do not make that your college essay, okay? Your English teacher is going to be able to tell you, hey, this is great, this is good, this is great. The Common App prompts haven't even, you're lucky here. I don't even know if they're going to officially be out. So you can't craft a perfect essay before you're really even getting to the Common App portion of the application process, okay? So from my perspective, grammar and spelling, right? It's important, okay? But we're not looking at it, right? We're not looking for ways to penalize a student, okay? So you have, one word spelled wrong. You maybe put Fordham instead of Fairfield. Ooh, oh my gosh, I did that, right? No way, I can't believe it. Okay, I don't need you to send me an email and then say, I made a mistake, I sent you the wrong essay. Let me send you a new one. And this has happened before. And I get a new one, and I have the old one, and I get the new one, and literally I know the mistake is there, and then they, spelling and grammar are important, okay? But unless it's consistent, okay, and it's bad writing, then it's not a big deal, okay? Yes, I say, you know what, that's unfortunate. That's too bad, right? But more often than not, if you misspell one word, that's okay. but this is why, what did Sharon say before? Proofread, okay? Hopefully you've proofread this essay, so when you send it in, it is in good shape. But just know that you find out, oh my God, I spelled this word wrong, you know, more often than not, it's okay, all right? So don't go crazy about that kind of stuff, but I just like to make sure people know that, okay? Parents. Okay? Parents in the room. Raise your hand if you're a parent. I know your parents, but just raise your hand. I just like to single you guys out, okay? Okay, here's my most important piece of advice for the evening. For you guys, okay? Do not give your students their topic. You say, wait a second, hold on. Research says that 90% of students say their parents are part of their process, and 100% of parents say that they're a part of their student's process, right? And that's actually true research, okay? But that's fact, right? But parents are saying, wait a second, I can't help them, I can't guide them, no, I didn't say that. Do not give them their topic. Do not tell them how they're going to do this prompt, okay? And I say that, right, because the students need to choose their topic, and they need to own their topic. It is their essay. They are applying to college. It's wonderful that you're helping them. It's wonderful that you're providing this opportunity for them, especially if you're going to be helping them pay for it, right? But they're the ones applying. It's their transcript that I'm reading, and it better be their essay that I'm reading too, okay? They did the work in the classes. They better do the work on the essay, and they better sell it to me. So they got to own that topic, okay? If they can't write it without your help or your memory, it's not the right topic. Okay? It's not the right topic. Right? Reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or an idea. Reflect on a time. Okay? So that maybe is a time in the past, correct? Right? Mom, what was a time when I challenged a belief or an idea? Can you help me out with that? Well, there was a time in 5th grade. Wait a second. Hold on. Let's back up the truck. Okay, guys? Right? No. You can't, students, ask that question. Reflect on the time when you challenged a belief or an idea. Oh, I know that time. Okay, I'm going to write that essay. You are owning the topic. You know it. If you don't have an answer, skip. Next one. What's another one? Okay? This is important. Okay? Parents, you can advise your students. You can ask them questions. Why? And I say this because they're going to have to answer a question, right? Why are you choosing that topic? Why are you saying this? Why are you saying that? Right? This is helpful. Parents, you have the life experiences to help guide them as they figure out how to get through this topic and really find out what they're going to say, right? But you shouldn't be saying, you know, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. I think you should write it like this. Have you thought about adding this in? If they haven't thought about it, right, it's probably just not going to be natural for them. And that's something Sharon said before, right? It just has to come out of you. It just has to be there, just to be something that you as a student are putting out there. Okay? Now, students, right? Your essay should be something important and or interesting to you. Okay? Now, this doesn't necessarily go as much with some of these prompts, but it can, right? Because I know students are going to be creative and try and find a way to fit them in still, right? I've seen enough essays, okay? The most important thing about you, right? The most important thing you want to tell me, I should say, right? Is that your life is just like 5 flavors of ice cream. Right? You know, Rocky Road, mint chocolate chip, vanilla, chocolate, right? Right? Or girls, you could say, you know, or that you own a lot of shoes and those shoes symbolize your life in certain ways. You know, my ballet slippers, you know, my high heel shoes, you know, my flats that I wear, right? Wonderful, great. It cannot be the most interesting thing about you. And if you're using it as a device to tell something interesting about you, right? Remove the device and see if you can write something, just take that interesting thing and just tell me about it, okay? So as we think about these prompts, and as you guys are doing this going forward, right? Describe a place or an environment where you feel perfectly content. I love this question. This is a great question, and for example, you hadn't told me that. I love that example, right? That's a wonderful example. But I have another one as well, right? Because I had a student this year who wrote about a cottage stay that her family has in Cape Cod, and they've been going there since she was 2 years old. And they go there every summer. You know, it's her grandparents' cottage. It's wonderful. But there's no cell phone service. no internet, and no television, right? Now, that's okay, right? When you're a little kid, you go to the beach or whatever, and then, but once you start getting a cell phone and you rely on the internet, and then you're taken to a place where you don't have it, it's challenging. And her essay was about this experience, right, where she feels content because she gets taken out of that world. And she gets to go for a run on the beach, and she gets to go and see the world and live life as if technology was not a part of it, right? And then when she comes back, and her essay was not this prompt, obviously, but it fits that prompt perfectly, right? Because she was able to say, what do you experience there and why is it meaningful to you? The meaning is that she can live life with less technology, and she knows how to separate herself from her phone, right? From the internet. How she can go outside and actually see what life is like, So that's something to really think about. But these are great things that you need to consider, okay? What's interesting about you, right? Everybody in this room has a unique story to tell, has something unique that they've experienced. You just haven't figured it out yet. Parents probably have, but students, you just haven't realized it yet, right? You just haven't realized it yet because you haven't thought about it. But there's going to be something that you think is dumb, you think is lame. It's just no way I'm telling that to anybody. Why would I use that as an example? And guess what? It's usually the best one out there because it's so unique to you and it's so interesting to us, right? And I read some of these essays and I'm just like, this kid is so cool. I'm so excited right now, right? Because I read a lot of these. I read 4,000 essays, give or take, over my time at Fairfield, right? So I want to know something about you that really makes you stand out and tells me that story about you, but a story can be in any one of these prompts. Okay? Now, here's one that I don't necessarily know if it fits into these prompts anymore, but I think it's important just to factor in as you continue thinking, right? I learned to appreciate X. I learned to appreciate life. Because that happened to me, therefore I learned to appreciate life, or I learned to appreciate the things that my parents have bought for me, or I learned to appreciate, this or that, my car. I learned to, wonderful that you've learned to appreciate it. How have you learned to appreciate it, right? And that's something that when I talked about answering the question before, right? A lot of times students go 2 steps without going the 3rd, right? You went on a service trip, and now you appreciate the things that you have in your life. Okay. And then it ends. Right? You ride off into the sunset. What I would like to have is, what have you done now? Let's say you're from Darien, Connecticut, and you went to Dominican Republic, and you helped people build a house, and they're so appreciative of your help, and okay, now what do you do? Did you just come back and go live your life, and you live in your house, and you have your car, and things are great? Or are you now doing something to, now this year you have decided that, the trip needs to have more attendance. The trip, you need more money for things. You need to, bring in more donations or bring stuff to them, right? To these families down there. So now this year, until the next trip, you are going to fundraise. Okay, now we've gotten that 3rd layer, that 3rd step, okay? That 3rd piece to the puzzle that says that you learned something, right? So in this is sort of where the failure thing comes in, right? Where it's, how did it affect you? Okay, I learned to appreciate life, right? What lessons did you learn? Okay, but how did it shape you? Okay, these are the things that I really want students to think about as they begin crafting these topics. You have to do this. This is why it takes time. Because you're saying to yourself, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to start. This is too much. Right? Okay. I want you guys to think about these things so that it becomes natural and it just flows naturally. And as that essay starts pouring out, right, you're saying, oh my God, I have so much to write. This is great. And you say, I have a 650-word limit. But when you have so much to write, you get to tailor how you want to say it, right? Rather than struggling to get to 650 words because you don't know what you're saying. Okay? Now, last but not least, what was the first thing? The essay is about you. Okay? If you're going to talk about an event, how did it affect you? What lessons did you learn, right? How did it affect you? If you're writing about somebody, right? An accomplishment or event, formal, informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. Okay. It's a lot of words, right? I'm going to guess number 5 is not going to be the most popular. I'll just tell you guys that right now, okay? I'm going to guess number 1 is going to be the most popular. Okay, it's the, what's that JFK quote, right? We do these things because they're easy. Right? Not because they're easy, we do them because they're hard, right? It's not the college essay. Okay, the college essay is how can I get this done and get it over with, okay? But we want you to think like JFK. We want you to think, it's got to be hard. Usually when it's hard, my best work comes out, okay? But if you're going to write about an event or somebody else or something else, right, don't forget to write about yourself. It's always about you. It's your story. It's your experiences. It's your life. It's your essay. It's your application, right? Hopefully it's your college that you're applying to, okay? When I read an essay, I look for honesty and I look for passion. Me. When I read an essay, I look for honesty and I look for passion. Many people might just look for spelling and grammar. That's why you got to ask. Spelling and grammar doesn't bother me. Because usually I know how hard you worked and it takes some time. But if you're going to give me something so bland and so boring, usually I'm saying, really guys? Really? You had some time to write this, I do a lot, read a lot of these essays. And there's a lot of them that are pretty bland, right? The essay is an important piece to the college application puzzle. But of course, your grades are an important piece as well, right? We need to make sure that you are academically capable of being admitted to the school that you're applying to. And at the same time, right, you're academically capable, right? What type of human being are you? Fairfield University is a Jesuit school. We care about, cura personalis, right? The whole person. So for us, we really delve into the type of individual that you are and your experiences in your life and all of those things. And so that's why these prompts I like, because they really will require you to do some soul searching and really dig in, self-reflection, and find something, dig something out, okay? But, and Sharon kind of said this, right? It's easy to tell when a student has just picked a topic, right, to write about, rather than a topic they want to write about. They've picked a topic to write about, rather than picked a topic they want to write about. So that's where I say people are going to probably pick number 1. Tell us your story. Oh, well, have I got a story for you? Right? Usually it's probably just, it's pretty generic. Right? Say, wait a second, I spent so much time on this. Right? How much time did you think about it before you wrote it? Right? You want to tell me about that place or that environment where you're perfectly content. And here's one thing that Sharon touches on that I just want to reiterate, but kind of tinker a little bit with, right? Don't go too much overboard with the detail, okay? And I say this because if you are at the beach, let's say, where you talk about the beach, right? If you tell me that, you're at the beach, I can figure out that, you tell me you're at Cape Cod, right? I don't need to know, that the ocean breeze and the sand was soft and, and the water was... Usually, if you're telling me at Cape Cod, I'm probably going to say, oh, it's idyllic, right? Okay, get a feel for that. Okay, good, right? A little bit of detail is helpful. Overwhelming detail where you're telling me each and every little thing, right? Okay, but when do you get to the point? When do you get to the point? What's the essay about, right? So, describe a place or an environment. This is where you think, describe a place. So I have to describe the place, right? But if it is an actual place, right, Cape Cod, that's good then, right? If it's a place that I've never heard of, okay, yes, you need to describe it, but you don't need to go too in depth with that detail. So just make sure you're figuring that piece out. That's important, okay? Now, that's it for me in the college essay. Okay? Remember, June, time, right? Work on this. Think of topics. Let them breathe, right? This is helpful, okay? But I want to touch on 3 separate things as an admissions person that I think are helpful for you generally as you go in, right? Everybody, right? Students are juniors. Anybody not a junior? Okay, so you guys are all getting this process. Okay, for the parents, I saw parents raise their hand. I've done this before. Yeah, okay. Hey, I'm a pro. I know how to. Okay, good. Wonderful. Okay. A few myths I just want to debunk. Okay. People have done this before, they haven't done it before. A few myths I want to debunk before we close out, okay? People like me are not nice. Oh, wait a second. I'm a nice guy. We figured that out, okay? Right? Admissions people are nice. Our job is to communicate with you. Our job is to help you out, okay? When we're at a college fair, right, we want to talk to you and communicate with you. So you can come up to us. And that's more towards the students. Parents, you'll come up to us, ask us your question. Students, you can come up to us and ask us questions, right? I have a proclivity to give people high fives, so sorry, but you might get one if you ask a good question. Yeah, okay. So that's one. We're nice people, right? We want to help you. We want to do our best to help you out. Okay? If we're really busy and we seem like or a little angry, right? Could be really stressed. There's a lot going on, but we're nice people. We're trying to help you guys out. Okay. Don't visit a campus in the summer. Impossible. Don't do it. Please don't. Right? Wait a second. Let's flip that on its head. Okay. I'm at my office in the summer. I'm there every day, right? We have 6 to 10 students who work in our office in the summer whose job it is to give tours all summer, okay? Right? When you're looking at a college campus, right, usually the most free time you have is in the summer, okay? For the first time, right, seeing a college campus, it's okay to not have students there because you're trying to get a feel for the campus and everything that it offers. And usually it's a little bit more open and you can breathe a little bit more while you're there. You kind of feel like, okay, let me get a feel for this place, right? Do I like what I've heard here? Let me go back when students are in session. Then I can follow up, right? Add that extra layer. I like to use an example of a safari. I was telling Aaron this earlier tonight, okay? You go on a safari, you watch people in their natural habitat. They don't care what you're doing, who you are. More often than not, students are walking to class, getting their mail, getting food, and trying to live their life, right? You're there to watch them, okay? What I want you to do is go there and kind of get a feel for whether you like this place, whether you want to be and do those things, right? And then you add that extra layer of students to say, okay, now I like what I'm seeing here. Now, if you're seeing campuses this spring, wonderful, that's great, but don't avoid campuses in the summer. We offer a lot of programming that can be very helpful to you in the summertime. Okay? Parents can't call for their students. Yes, you can. Students, you don't save their, your name later and say, oh, look, mom called 3 times for this kid. No, I can't admit them. Okay? No, we can. Okay? All right? We're going to admit you based on your record, your application, all of those things. If your parents are calling because you're at school, because you're at work, there's things that they want to clarify. It's perfectly fine. Okay? So don't worry about those things. Right? And last but not least, because I saw somebody holding a Fisk guidebook, they didn't notice. They're still not noticing. Guys in the front row. He still doesn't notice. Okay. All right. Guidebooks and the internet, okay, are the gospel. Right? That's the myth. Right? And I say that, right, because guidebooks and the internet are very helpful. They are 2 resources out of a handful of resources that you can use when you're visiting a college campus. Now, some people might say, well, if you talk to an admission counselor, they're only going to tell you the positive things about their school. So I have to look at the internet to hear the negative things about the school. But then you think about the posts on the internet are usually very negative about a school because usually people who are posting about a school on the internet are usually posting negative. So where do I get my information? You get it in all different places, okay? Right? The Fisk Guide and the Barron's Guide, they go on our website, they request the information from us, right? They send out surveys to current students. Those students can write whatever they want in those surveys, right? Right? If they write false information about Fairfield, we don't get to check it, right? And I mean, if they write something blatantly false about the school, Barron's publishes it, we don't get to check it, okay? So I just want to make sure that you guys know these things, not because I want to tell you all the positive things about certain schools, but just know that all these resources are helpful as you go through the process. If you've done this before, you might know what you're doing. If you're going through this the first time, maybe you're a first-generation student, your parents didn't go to school, and this is really the first time ever you're going through this, right? Know that there's a lot of resources out there, and everybody wants to help you guys out. Okay? Thank you so much for listening tonight. I really appreciate it. We'll be here for questions when you're done, but feel free to come down and ask them individually. We can touch on those when we're done. Okay? Thank you, guys.